We last left off with having raised the trailer with an over-under spring conversion kit, and I actually gave a sneak peek of it in action in this test and tune video. That brings us to round 3, better stabilizer jacks and mudflaps. When I originally did the trailer, I put these 4th generation Firebird splash guards on there as my mud flaps. I bought them on eBay and they were pretty inexpensive, and I cut them down a little bit to fit my needs. But to buy a pair of these now, they are ridiculously priced because they don't make them anymore. So I went with a cheaper do-it-yourself mud flap, and I found it on a place called Zoro.com. So when I raised the trailer, my little Firebird splash guards are not going to suffice as a mud flap, so I ordered some longer rubber mud flaps, and I'm going to cut them to shape and mount them in place. And here we are with the installed mud flap. I had to do a little bit of trimming, as you can see on the one I'm going to put on the passenger side, but other than that, gonna work just fine. I got another parts arrival for the trailer. Holy cow, look how big this box is. Wow. What do you think, bud? Huh? It's a big box, isn't it? Is that a big box? Yep. The scissor jacks that I am going to be installing on the trailer are the Lippert Scissor Stabilizer Jacks. They are a 24-inch lift and they have a 10,000 pound capacity, and I got them on etrailer.com. With the scissor jacks picked out and in my possession, it was time to sketch out some design ideas for how I intended to mount them to the trailer. Now I needed to have a lot of support for them. I didn't want anything weak, and I didn't want them slanted at an angle for any reason. And then while I was sketching out ideas, I was jotting down notes on things that I thought might help or not help, and I ended up mounting them facing the rear because once I raised the trailer, the height thing was not an issue. With the design worked out in my mind, it was time to start fabricating. I am fabricating a mount for the scissor jack with 2.5-inch angle iron. The angle iron is 1/8 inch thick. Reciprocating saw blades are expensive, so suck all the life out of them that you can. Since I know the driver's side and passenger side bracket that I'm making will be the same, I'm going to cut all my pieces before I do any welding. I'm going to make these new scissor jacks bolt onto the trailer just in case I would have one fail or some other issue where I needed to have it removed. I can easily unbolt it rather than having to cut a weld. And I'm going to drill them here with a hand drill. And ironically, I do have a drill press just to the left of the camera here. It's out of the view of the camera, but I have one. Time to start welding my brackets up. I'm going to use this square to get a nice 90-degree angle, and I'm just going to kind of hold it in place and tack it. I'm not going to use a magnet or nothing to hold it. I know it'll probably move just a little bit when I weld it, but these don't have to be 1000% precise, I guess I should say. They will work just fine doing it this way. Now that the parts are tacked in place, I'm going to finish weld it. I don't need to weld this side. Welding one side is plenty sufficient, but I want to fill in the space where the two pieces meet so water can't collect and rust. These version 1 stabilizer jacks have to come off. I discussed the installation of these original stabilizer jacks in the Extreme Trailer Makeover video I did back in 2020. These were very inexpensive. I think I spent $30 on them, and they worked well for a while, but then they got to where they wouldn't hold the position with the weight of the car. So I'm taking them off, and these suckers put up a fight, as you can see. My goodness, they didn't want to come off. I try to stay away from the cheaper cutoff wheels if at all possible. They just seem to dissolve, just disappear basically quicker. I welded these stabilizer jacks on with never intending to remove them, and obviously I'm removing them, so I didn't weld them in such a way that they could be cut off easily, so I'm cutting the stabilizer jack apart to get it off, and then I'm just going to leave what I have to, left over onto the trailer. I'll clean it up the best I can, and you shouldn't be able to really see it. I already have the trailer sitting at ride height as if it's being towed, behind my truck. So at this point, I want to find, the level spot for these brackets I'm adding, and I've already built the brackets. So I'm using this, scrap piece of angle iron to kind of mark out where it's going to weld on to the trailer. I want this bracket for the new scissor jack to have the most contact as possible to the trailer while maintaining levelness. So I want the bottom of the angle iron to touch the bottom of the square tubing that the trailer's constructed out of, and also touch the side of the square tubing as much as possible, but still stay level with the ground. Now it's time to clean the paint and the rust and whatever else off the metal, so I have a good clean surface to weld to, and I know where I need to clean the paint off because I've marked it with the silver Sharpie. I say this from the experience of doing it the hard way so many times, but I always like to set my C-clamp almost as close as possible to the opening that I need to clamp something together with it, so I'm not holding the part in midair and trying to turn the C-clamp handle at the same time. It just never works well for me. I'm not that coordinated, I suppose. After fighting with that a little bit to hold it in place, I got the bright idea to actually use the scissor jack to my advantage and help hold it up while I clamp it down. I want to make sure that this bracket is exactly where I want it before I put any tack welds on. Since this side is exactly where I want it, I'm going to actually put a couple stitch welds on it. The inner part does not have any square tubing, so I need to come up with some sort of support that, unlike the outer part of the trailer where I could just weld to the side of the square tubing. So I tried a couple pieces of angle iron in there, and some other thoughts, and I ended up using a 1/8 inch thick piece of flat stock steel that I had. I cut down to size and just slid it in there and then welded it up really well. With the bracket tacked into final position, I'm going to finish weld everything now. The driver's side is essentially done now, other than painting it and bolting the scissor jack onto it. So I'm going to take some measurements and transfer those to the passenger side so I can weld that bracket in the same location. Yes, now it's time to cut off the passenger side stabilizer jack. If you followed along so far, you know how much fun the other one was, so let's see how this one turns out. Well, that was a lot easier. Time to put my trusty Eastwood MIG welder to work. This welder has been a great little tool. I've got probably hundreds of hours on it, and it still welds just like it did the day I bought it. Using the scissor jack to hold the bracket I made in place works so well on the driver's side that I'm certainly going to do it on the passenger side. This little piece of metal hanging down right here has got to go. Oh, how about some weird behavior? Gotta stick to the motto. While you watch me tack weld and then finish weld the passenger side bracket into place, I wanted to tell you that a viewer by the name of Ricardo commented on my last trailer video that I have boat trailer axles, which explains the lack of axle studs. I had no idea that there was such a thing as boat axles and they don't have wheel studs, but he did say that I could buy some that threaded in, and I have done a little research on that, and yes, they are available, and I might consider it, but the current setup's working just fine, so if it ain't broke, I'm probably not gonna fix it. The white smoke was, 55 years worth of paint and, surface rust and whatever else might be on there that I didn't get all cleaned off or I couldn't get to, but the welder will certainly burn it off. A little bit of rustoleum gloss black spray paint will match just fine with the gloss black implement paint that I painted the trailer with earlier. I can't be having overspray creeping in the garage and getting on the Trans Am. And magic! Poof! Well, okay, that was pretty anticlimactic. I do all of my own testing as well. Here I am testing the rigidity, I guess, of the scissor jack. I'll have to add this jack handle to my track prep list, so I be sure to pack it in with me before I head to the track. Well, here's the finished product, at least the driver's side that is, extended down to hold my trailer steady as I load and unload the car, and here's a shot of it retracted for traveling down the road. There's plenty of clearance behind it. I'm able to jack it up and down from the rear quite easily because of the height of the trailer now. Gave me a lot more room to crawl under there to do that. And here is a shot of it the first time I got to use it at the track with the car. We have Firebird decals, and I'd love for you to have one. You can get one at my eBay store at the link in the description below.